For anyone who's new, I'm Alicia. My pronouns are she and her. And I'm joining you from the native lands of the Ktunaxa, Spokane, and Shuswap tribes, now known as Spokane, Washington. So as you're coming in, feel free to say hello. You could share how you're feeling or where you're practicing from. And we're going to be using the chair today, but we'll also be coming to some standing and balancing postures. So I have a sturdy chair on a non-skid surface. I also have a couple of blankets and a firm throw pillow. And so in that context, let me know if there's anything specific that you would like to cover during our time together. And in the meantime, we will start to get set up in the chair. And feel free to add to the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. So we want to start first with having our feet flat on the floor. If your legs are shorter, maybe your feet aren't firmly in contact with the floor, you could take one of those folded blankets under the feet to raise the floor up to you. And my legs are on the longer side, so oftentimes I like to sit up on a folded blanket. And then we can also take the skin out and back from each hip so that we can feel the sitting bones more fully in the chair. And I'm sitting towards the front of my chair, and that may or may not work for you. So a couple of other options would be to bring in that pillow, and you could fill in some of the space. If you're sitting towards the front of your chair, you could fill in some of that space between your back and the backrest. Or you could choose to scoot all the way back in the chair and use the full support of the backrest. And then we want to be able to feel our feet and our seat. And from there, let the spine lengthen up comfortably tall from the sitting bones all the way through the top of the head. And then we can roll the shoulders forward up towards the ears, and then let them soften back and down. And you could also pretend you have something light like a washcloth on top of your head, lifting gently up into that washcloth. And then you might notice that it will make a slight tuck of the chin towards the throat, very subtle, just enough to bring some additional length to the back of the neck. And then from this overall basic alignment, what other adjustments do you feel like you need to make for yourself? Knees can be roughly over the ankles, or the ankles and feet could be slightly in front of the knees if you like a little bit more robust base. And if you haven't practiced with me before, please keep in mind this is completely your practice. So think of anything that I'm going to offer as invitations. And then tune into your own bodily wisdom, your own inner teacher, and let those be your primary guides for our time together. So in a moment, I'm going to invite the bell. That will drop us into the centering portion of the practice. From there, we'll transition to some gentle seated warm-up movements, eventually making our way to standing for some standing and balancing postures. And then we'll return to the chair. We might fit in a little bit of breath work, and we'll have some integration and relaxation time. So you can soften your gaze. You might pick a point on the floor a few feet in front of you, something that's not moving that you could rest your gaze on, or you could close the eyes down completely. And I'll invite the bell to drop us in. So as we're all settling into our own spaces, let's take a moment to acknowledge that the tradition of yoga originated thousands of years ago in ancient India. And then let's shift the awareness down into the feet. You can wiggle the toes or shift the feet slightly in some sort of other way that is helpful for you to direct your awareness to the feet and the sensations there. You can also have your hands on the tops of the knees, hinging forward slightly at the hips, and add some additional pressure down through the knees, into the lower legs and the feet. Noticing this part of your base. What does it feel like to be in contact with the floor? Is there a firmness or sense of support there? Do you notice different textures or changes in temperature? If you're adding that additional pressure down through the legs, you can hinge back up. And then start to notice your bum in the chair. You could rock your weight side to side from one sitting bone to the other, or rock forward and back. What does it feel like to have your bum in the chair? Another part of your base when you're sitting. And these subtle practices of tuning into your base and a sense of grounding, these are things that you can use throughout your day to help yourself come back to your body, possibly get out of your mind some if you need that anchor of bodily sensation. And it's something that you can do with your eyes open or closed. No one has to know that you're doing it. And you can do it in any position that you're in. Let's broaden the awareness out further. Noticing any sounds, smells, tastes. You might move the tongue around inside the mouth over the teeth and the gums. And what kind of sights are there, even if the eyes are closed? And opening up to other areas of the body where you're noticing touch. You might feel clothes against the skin. You could pick up on changes in temperature. There might be places of pressure, tightness. And see if you can receive all of this as neutral information. That's definitely easier said than done. But can you attempt to let go of some of the judgment around whatever you're noticing? Taking a step back, imagining yourself as more of a witness and an observer to whatever's true for you in this moment. You could place a hand on the belly and a hand on the chest. And then start to observe your breath. Noticing how your body, how your chest and belly are moving beneath the palms of your hands. And observing how each inhale has an expansion and a lengthening quality. You might notice your spine lengthening up. And each exhale tends to be more of a softening and a settling. Observing your breath without having to change it in an intentional way. And greeting any thoughts and emotions that are coming up for you with some additional kindness and compassion. Whenever you feel ready, you can open the eyes if they were closed or lift the gaze, visually reorienting to your space, looking around, taking in what's around you, and maybe bringing in some intuitive movement if you're ready for that. Oftentimes when I've had a moment to quiet the mind and body, I'm noticing some areas of the body that are asking for my attention, asking for some movement. So start moving in some sort of way that you're called to or that seems interesting. If we were all in a room together, we'd each probably look very different with what we're doing. So really make this your own. If it's supportive for you to close your eyes now or anytime throughout the practice, that can help bring your awareness more inward. because it isn't about doing what someone else is doing or trying to copy in any sort of way. It's about feeling from the inside out what is feeling right for you. And then experimenting, exploring. And today I thought we could focus on creating space for joy. So we could start with these movements. Is there something that you could do with these movements, or maybe even lack of movement, depending on how you're feeling, that could help you create some space for joy? Maybe even just taking some time out of your day to do a practice for yourself is a good start to creating some joy. But is there a way with what we're doing right now that you could open up even a little bit more space for joy? And whenever you're feeling complete with these movements, let's go ahead and reset back at center. Let's start with a few breath and motion connections here. So let's inhale the arms up. Bring the hands together or closer together. They don't need to be touching. And then exhale the palms through heart center. So let's find a rhythm here. Inhaling the arms up and exhaling the palms through heart center. Find your own pace. Inhaling as the arms come up, exhaling as the hands come down. You could allow your gaze to follow along, so you could look up slightly as you're inhaling, and your gaze could come down as you're exhaling, getting some movement into the neck. Let's do one more. And then let's go on to making some circles with the torso. We can also link up the breath and movement here. You could try inhaling as you come back, exhaling as you come forward. And if linking up the pace of the movement to the pace of the breath doesn't feel right for you, just let that go. Find what's feeling best. And what's feeling best could be just letting go of that connection and letting it land wherever it's going to land. Next time you come through center, let's reverse and go the opposite direction. So as we're going through each different movement, let's try to come back to our original intention of creating space for joy. So as we're doing this movement, what might that mean for you? It's okay if you don't have an answer to that. Just be open to receiving. And whenever you're feeling even both sides, coming on back through center. Let's go ahead and inhale and lengthen the spine. Let the shoulders be soft. Next, exhale. Let's take the chin first towards the throat, tucking, and then rolling any amount more in the direction of the chest. Next, inhale, rolling one ear towards the shoulder. Exhale, the chin back towards the chest. Inhale, taking the opposite ear towards the shoulder. And then settle into your own rhythm. You can let the natural pace of your breath guide the pace of your movement if you choose. If you feel like that brings you more space for joy, and if it doesn't, let it go. Next time you have an ear towards the shoulder, you could try slowly nodding the head at an angle. So lifting and lowering the chin. Really taking your time with this. And you can continue on. Next exhale, chin towards the chest. And inhaling, opposite ear towards the shoulder. Maybe slow nodding, lifting and lowering the chin. Let's take it once more to each side. Nodding or not. And bringing it back up through center. With our next inhale, with the hands on the thighs, let's slide the hands towards the hip creases as you open the chest and the belly. So the elbows are tucking in and back, and the gaze can come up. So you're bringing an arch into your back here. Open the chest. And then on the exhale, sliding the fingertips towards the knees as you round the back and tuck the chin. Inhale, hands sliding back towards the hip creases, elbows in close to the body, opening the front of the body, arching the back. Exhale, fingertips slide towards the knees, round the back and tuck the chin. Find your own rhythm here as well. Inhale as you're opening the front of the body. Exhale as you're rounding in. And see if on your inhale you can really lengthen the spine up as you're also arching the back. And you can stay right here if this is feeling all right. Or if you want to play a little bit with a different arm position, you could take the arms wide on the next inhale, wide and back, and wrap them around for a hug on the exhale. I even like to add a tiny little twisting back and forth. I don't know why, it just feels natural. So you can add that in or you don't need to. That's just kind of my own thing that I like to do. That brings me a little bit of joy in this position for some reason. Let's do one more round. And let's bring it back through center. Take a pause, check in, notice how you're feeling. Feel your base, feel your feet in your seat so that you can ground the body. Observe the breath. And also notice any thoughts or emotions that are arising. And then with your next inhale, let's lift the toes and the balls of the feet. So we're tipping back onto the heels. And then exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. You could also coordinate it with your hands being on the thighs. I wasn't planning to do that. I was more just sort of showing what my feet are doing. But for me, it's kind of nice to bring the two together. So you could play with that if it seems interesting to you. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. One more. And then let's go ahead and lift the heels. So lifting the heels on the inhale. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. I kind of feel like I'm in a rocking chair when I'm doing this one. Let's do one more of these. And then let's give the legs a shake out in any sort of way that feels good for you. Give the toes a wiggle. And let's go ahead and make our way to standing in whatever way works best for you. And you can move your blankets off to the side for now. And let's start with the chair. Well, actually, we'll do a couple things here first. We're going to have the back of the chair facing us, but I like to do this monkey drum twist when I come to standing. Get some twisting in. So as you're turning, let that outside heel come up and come onto the ball and the toes of that outside foot so your knee can travel along. Letting the arms be loose, flopping yourself in the front and the back. This might be a time where you could sigh out a few exhales. And slow your twist down. And then now we can go ahead and take the back of the chair towards us. Make sure you're still keeping part of your chair at the very least, if not all 4 legs, on your mat or your non-skid surface. And let's start by having a wide stance with the back of our chair facing us. So have each knee, ankle, and foot tracking out in the same direction. And let's start with the hands on the hips. And then bend slightly into one knee and then the other. Just warming up the knees a little bit. You don't have to bend very far. Shifting the weight side to side. And then let's, depending on the length of your arms in your chair and how wide your legs are, for me, I can just put my fingertips on my chair. But if that is not the case for you, let's start on the hands on the hips. And let's hinge forward slightly. So we're having the weight back in the heels, lengthening out from the bum all the way through the top of the head as you hinge towards the back of the chair. And then whenever your hands naturally come to the back of the chair, you can release them down and keep both knees soft and your weight back. So long spine. So we're starting with the back of the chair facing us. So you might not be able to come down very far. That might be just the right amount for you. But we'll try it again if you want more space. We'll try it again with the seat facing us. Let's take a couple breaths here. And then let's firm up through the belly, press down through the feet as you hinge back up. Releasing the hands. And take your time, heel, toe, or whatever way works best for you to get your feet back together. And then if that was a good height for you, you could keep the back of the chair facing you. If you felt like there was more space and you want to go a little bit lower, go ahead and turn your chair around and have the seat facing you. And we'll do the same thing. So take your feet out a bit wider. Whew. It's a little bit of a balance challenge here. Keep both knees soft and buoyant. Let's inhale as we're lengthening up. Put the hands on the hips. And on an exhale, hinge forward from the hips so we're keeping the spine long and the chest open. The weight back towards the heels. And as you're hinging forward, you can release the hands down to the seat of the chair whenever they make it there. If you feel like you naturally have some more bend in your shoulder or in your elbows and you'd like, you can always come down to forearms. But we're trying to keep the spine nice and long. Sitting bones all the way out through the top of the head. Let's try to keep the weight more back towards the heels rather than in the toes or the balls of the feet where you feel like you're falling forward. Let's take 3 full breaths wherever you're at. And after your 3rd exhale, whenever it comes, if you were down on forearms, make your way back to your hands on the seat of the chair. Firm up through the belly, pressing down through the legs. Take your time here. You could take one hand to the hip at a time. Get your balance to feel like your weight is back in your heels. And you can slowly hinge back up. And then heel toe your feet back together or whatever works best for you. Let's find our Tadasana, our mountain pose. Let's start with the feet about hip bone distance apart. Check in with your inner thighs. If they're feeling too compressed, take your feet a bit wider and check it again. And you can rock forward and back on the feet. Lift all the toes and lower them back down. Your hands could be facing forward, palms forward. Maybe your palms are facing in towards your legs. Or you could try the fists on the hips, letting the shoulders soften down. Check in with your bum and your low back. That's where I notice that I tend to grip. And sometimes I can soften that a bit once I check in and notice. So feel your new base now that we're standing. You can wiggle your toes. You can shift your weight around. And then we'll go ahead and take our mountain pose and we'll take it in front of the chair. Let's have the seat facing us this time. And then on your next inhale, let's bring the arms up. Lengthening the spine up, let the shoulders be soft. You can also tip back for a tiny back bend if that feels okay for your back and your neck. And then on the exhale, bringing the arms down, let's bring the hands to the hips and hinging forward at the hips. So sending the weight back towards the heels so you're not falling forward. And you're keeping a long spine as you're hinging towards the seat of the chair, releasing the hands down. So if you need more space to your belly, you can always take your feet a tiny bit wider. You can also use the hands when you're hinging forward. You can slide the hands into the hip creases, smoothing the belly towards the center. Let's inhale, come up to a flatter back. So long from the sitting bones all the way through the top of the head. And then exhale, lower down. We're still keeping the knees nice and soft. And then inhale back up to a flat back. Let's root down through the right leg and foot. Take a large step back with the left foot, coming onto the ball of the left foot. And then I'm noticing that I could be a little wider in my stance front to back. Make space for the belly. You could take that right leg a tiny bit wider. You can also take the hand to the belly, slide it towards the center. And then let's inhale, lengthen the right leg. Exhale, bend. And when you bend the knee, we're shooting for it to be roughly over the right ankle. If it's shooting way out past, you might take your stance wider front to back. Let's keep that right knee bent. And turn the left toes out and plant the left heel down. So if that's a challenge, bring your stance in a little closer, front to back, so that you have the space to turn the toes out and plant the heel. And then firm up through the legs, and then gradually work your hands up that right leg until you're coming up more towards vertical. Now, if this isn't feeling good on that left knee, ankle, foot, maybe you choose to come back to the ball of the left foot with the toes turning forward. So that's kind of the difference. You could have the heel planted down, toes turned out, or you could stay back with the heel up and on the ball of the left foot. And you could even play with that a little bit, going slow to see what you like. Bending into that right knee. And then we can bring the arms out about shoulder height, palms facing down. Your right hand is tracking out over the same direction as your right knee. Your left arm is behind you. Let's take 3 full breaths here. Let's release the arms. If you had those left toes turned out, come back onto the ball of the left foot. And then hinge forward so that you can take your hands back to the seat of the chair. Take as many steps as you need to bring that left foot back to meet the right. Let's inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, hinge forward again. With the weight back towards the heels, let's press down through the feet. Release the hands to come up. Little back bend here if you choose. And exhale the palms through heart center. And we'll go ahead and work a little bit on the other side. So let's inhale the arms up. Long spine, little back bend if you choose. On the exhale, maybe starting with the hands on the hips, sliding the belly towards the center as you hinge forward. Inhale, lengthening the arms, coming up to a flatter back. And then exhale, hinging forward again. This time we'll take a large step back with the right foot, coming onto the ball of the right foot and bending into the left knee. Smooth that belly towards the center if you'd like. Let's inhale to lengthen the left leg. Exhale to bend the knee. Check where you're at with the knee, roughly over the ankle. If it's shooting way out past, you might have more space to lengthen your stance front to back. Inhale, straightening. Exhale, bending. And then you can turn those right toes out if you choose and lower the right heel down. You can always shorten up your stance if it helps to do that. You can also stay on the ball of the right foot with the toes tracking forward. Let's firm up through the legs, Bringing the hands to the left thigh, slowly working your way up. Just challenging your balance here. And as you come up, you might find you want to adjust your stance. You maybe want to turn your toes out more or less, reset your heel. Let's re-bend into the left knee. And the torso is now kind of coming between the legs rather than completely facing forward like we were. It probably will naturally feel like it wants to come more between the legs. And then you can take the arms out to the side, palms facing down. Left hand is roughly tracking out over the left knee. Right arm is completely behind. Let's let the shoulders soften in. Let's take 3 full breaths here. After your third exhale, let's release the arms. Let's turn those right toes forward again, coming up onto the ball of the right foot, lifting the heel, and lowering the hands down to the seat of the chair, taking as many steps as you need to bring the right foot in to meet the left. Maybe even bringing the left foot back a bit to meet the right. Let's soften the knees, bring the weight back into the heels, press down through the feet to rise up. And exhale the palms through heart center. Let's go ahead and take a pause here. Come back to our mountain pose. And notice how you're feeling. Let's turn the palms in towards the thighs if they're not there already. Let the shoulders soften down. We'll inhale here as we're lengthening the spine. On the exhale, let's let the left hand slide down the left thigh any amount as you lean towards the left. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, sliding the right fingertips down the thigh. Inhale back to center. Now if you're like me, maybe you notice quite a difference from side to side. That's okay. Try not to pass judgment. Honor wherever you're at. And letting go of some of that judgment might just create a little bit more space for joy as well. We've moved the spine in all the other directions, so now we're getting a little bit of lateral side to side spinal movement. Let's go once more to each side. And we come back through center. Let's do the arm movements with the breath that we did at the beginning of the class, but we'll do it standing now. So let's inhale the arms up. And on the exhale, bringing the palms towards each other and down. Inhaling up. You could even look up if you'd like. And exhale. Follow the palms down with your eyes. Let's do one more of these. And then let's make our way back to seated. Bring all your blankets along with you. Maybe you decide to bring in your pillow if you'd like, behind you or in some other sort of way as a prop. We're looking to set up now more for relaxation rather than having space for movement. You could take the skin out and back again from each hip. And let's go ahead and take any other movements before we set up our blanket for our neck roll. Take any other movements that you would like, intuitive movements here. What kind of movements might create that little bit more space for joy in this moment? Are there any places we didn't get into that your body is calling your attention to? Get creative, be open to exploring. And then once you're complete with that, let's take our extra blanket, open it up wide, and fold it in half the long direction. And then from there, roll it down the long way. So you're headed towards a scarf type shape. And then that can go around behind the back of the neck. And option 2, if you have a longer blanket, you could always cross it in front first and then take it under your arms, or you could just take it under the arms straight away. Maybe you want to use the backrest of the chair, maybe you don't. Just use the tools that you have on hand to set yourself up for the most amount of comfort and ease. Adjust how much tension is on the back of your neck. You just want to support the back of your neck with the blanket, but you don't want it pulling down too hard, pulling your neck forward. You can close the eyes or soften the gaze down. And let's take a few straw breaths together. So to do that, the inhales will be through the nose. And then on the exhale, you'll pretend like you have a straw between your lips. And you're holding that straw and you're exhaling out slowly and completely through the straw. And that allows your exhale to lengthen, which can be down-regulating for the nervous system. Now, if at any point you're trying this breathing exercise and it doesn't feel right for you, that's okay. Just let it go. Let your breath find its own natural rhythm. So if you're going to give this a try, let's inhale through the nose. Exhale through the pursed lips, through that pretend straw. Letting the exhale be long and slow and complete. And then let the next inhale arise on its own. Let's do one more round if you have been joining me. Let the breath return to its natural rhythm, whatever that is right now. And then lightly rest your attention on the exhale. And with each exhale, imagine you're letting go of some of the things that you don't need. Letting go of some of the things that you don't need might open up a little bit more space for joy. And allowing yourself to soften and settle in to the support beneath you any amount more. Taking your own time, let's invite some small movements back into the body. Option to start out at the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, and gradually making your way towards any larger movements that would feel nice, that would create that space for joy as you're waking the body back up. Opening the eyes or lifting the gaze and reorienting to your space. If you'd like to join me to close, you could take one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. May I greet my body with gentleness. May I soften when life invites me to harden. May I listen to my intuition with wisdom and trust it with ease. And may I appreciate my body a little more in this moment, just as it is. Now we can bring the hands together in front of the heart. Let's take one breath together. We'll inhale and exhale. Thank you all so much for choosing to share your time and your practice with me today.